Galimera, Galimera, Galimera. Good morning, good morning, good morning. And as you can see on the veranda with some of the chickens, not all of them, but some of them, looking at the weather this morning, it's not looking good. Cloudy. Thank you to Amanda for a concise weather forecast. She says, morning, Ginge. It's going to be cloudy today. Temperatures today are going to be 20 degrees Celsius. However, it's going to feel like 20 degrees Celsius. And I've got to be honest, I'm actually sat here with a little light fleece on as well as me top because I'm feeling a bit of cold this morning. So there you go. It's looking a bit grim here today in comparison to what it has been. Big shout out to Sweden, to Maria Hadelberg who's tuning in. Also Barbara Telfer who's looking in as well. But that's the weather for today. Is looking rather dull and miserable, to be quite honest. But at least it's not raining. However, looking at the long-term weather forecast, we are in line for some rain at some point. But anyway, that's the weather for today. I'm going to get straight down to the news today because I've got a lot of news. Not so much national news, but more local news for Zakynthos about what's been going on here on the island. But as always, let's kick off with the COVID stats for the last 24 hours here in Greece and find out what's been going up and down in the way of the infections. Right, okay, new infections at the moment. They're actually gone up again, actually. Previous report, I did say 6,801. Well, at the moment, it has now risen to 6,862 new infections in the last 24 hours here in Greece, bringing the grand total since the pandemic started to 821,900. 11 new cases were detected at entries points into the country. That was also up on yesterday, where there were 8 reported the day before. Now, when it comes to the islands of interest in the Ionian that we're keeping an eye on for their infection rates in comparison to ours, Lefkada at the moment has had 12 new infections. That is up on their previous day where they'd had 10. That island, just to remind you, is in the green in the Greek traffic light system. Corfu, their infection rate is also up. They had 76 on my previous report. They have had 82 new infections within the last 24 hours. That island is in the red. Prefecture of Kefalonia, they've only had 3 new infections, which is down on the previous day where they had 13 new infections on the island. That is our neighbours, and they are in amber. And as for us, Zakynthos, Greece, we've had a slight decline in infections as well, new infections. We did say 28 to you yesterday. Well, today I can report that there were 23 new infections on the island. However, we are still in the red at the moment. When it comes to deaths here in Greece, deaths have slightly dropped. We had 67 deaths yesterday, which was an all-time record since May. The number of new deaths is now 55 new deaths that have been reported across the country. That brings the death toll now since the pandemic started to 16,616. 95% of those were people with underlying illnesses or disease or were over the age of 70. And again, our condolences to those families that are affected at this time. When it comes to critical cases in ICUs, at the moment, that number is still creeping up. 503 reported yesterday. Today, I can report 508 critical cases. 316 of those are male. 189 of those are female. The average age of those people affected is 65 years of age, and 82.5% of them have underlying health conditions or are over the age of 70. Now, regarding critical patients, 423 of them are unvaccinated, and 85 of them are fully vaccinated. Also, of that unvaccinated, you've got people that are partially vaccinated within that number, i.e. they've only had 1 dose of the vaccine where they should have had maybe 2. Now, the news, as I said, is slightly a little bit leading towards what's happening here on the island, and I will get to that. But anyway, news hot off the press this morning. It seems that from today in Greece, the maximum number of people allowed into supermarkets, mini markets, bakeries, butchers, fishmongers, pastries, and wine stores at any one time is being reduced. The rule of one person per 9 square meters is now reimposed, rejecting the relaxed rule that we had of one person per 2 square meters, which was applied in late October. So basically what it means, there's going to be less people allowed into those shops that I've just said, as opposed to what it has been. So this is another reason that because of the epidemiology rate, this is another factor they put into place. Anyway, the move is due to acceptance by the government that a proposed measure restricting unvaccinated citizens from entry to supermarkets only by presenting a negative rapid test would be untenable. Basically, you still needed a rapid test, or you need a rapid test to go into these places if you're unvaccinated. And again, I was just discussing this with Jane this morning. Where are people going to get vaccination tests so that they can go to work if they're still working, etc.? You can't go into restaurants and bars unless you have a test, but you were allowed to go into supermarkets and shops of those natures if you weren't vaccinated. So again, people having to get getting PCR tests, where were they going for them? The places that I was going have now all closed for the season. So it'd be interesting to see if anybody can let me know where can you get tests done at the moment if you want to still carry on testing if you have to go to work, etc. Anyway, also as well, the government also said yesterday people who refuse the vaccine against COVID-19 may be looking at even more restrictions in their movements and habits if the epidemiology situation continues to deteriorate, the Greek health minister said yesterday. Now, restrictions will be escalated if this is through necessary, not for any punitive reasons, but because the majority of heavy cases are unvaccinated. Anyway, he was speaking to Sky Radio, Greek Sky Radio, a day after the National Operation for Public Health reported the occupancy at Greece's intensive care wards at that time had reached 89%, which was 503 beds, and now today it's 508 beds. Anyway, Plevis, that's the minister, did not divulge what these restrictions would entail, but the development minister, Andronis Giordadis, had earlier on Friday indicated that they may include negative COVID tests being required for entry to supermarkets and other food stores. Well, they haven't gone there at the moment. What they've basically decided to do is to basically drop the number of people allowed in, as opposed to making it a test to go in. Because in effect, if you can't get a test, you can't basically go and buy food to eat. Anyway, under the current restrictions, people who do not have vaccinations or valid recovery certificate have to show a negative rapid PCR test to gain admission to all retail outlets, apart from food stores, as well as to hair salons, cafes, restaurants and other mixed venues. Asked by Open TV to clarify on the likelihood of such measures being introduced, Giordadis said that, of course, it is being considered, but there are problems with regards to its implementations. Anyway, but there are certain fellow Greeks who will not take rapid tests either, and we cannot deprive them of access to basic necessities, he said, adding the problem of long lines forming outside supermarkets during the busier shopping hours. To be honest, as I just already said on that first story about the restrictions that are being imposed, where are people going for tests at the moment? It was very clear where people could get tests during the summer season when we had lots of tourists here. But since it's gone all quiet, there's been not a lot of shouting about where tests can be done, whether you can still get tested at the testing centre that was down in town, or whether you're still having to put your hand in your own pocket to go get a test. But again, where can you go? So again, if anybody knows, let me know and I'll let everybody else know. Anyway, going to what's happening on the island then. The Municipal Council here on Zakynthos condemns with disgust the invasion by the police on Thursday while the body was conducting a meeting in its chamber. Yep, this operation was reminiscent of times of the military junta. It's been noted in the press that when Greece was ruled by the colonels, in a 70s style of policing, they are condemning that this is not the way that the democratic people of Zakynthos should be treated, that the police should be turning up to council meetings. Now, the manner in which the police performed its duties during the meeting was a violent violation of the democratic functioning of the local self-government and was unanimously denounced by the municipal councillors. They also said, we call on the government to take all necessary measures to satisfy the democratic feelings of people of Zakynthos. Now, the only thing that they're not saying about that whole story was what was the reason for the visit by the police? Were the police going in there to check to see that everybody had a vaccination certificate, or that everybody had a certificate of disease if they've caught COVID and got better of it? Or it may be any of the people that are councillors, any of them got a PCR test with them as well. So again, it's a bit vague as to what the reasons were for the police's turning up to that council meeting. But if anybody can tell me, again, I'd be curious to know, is it the police were just doing their duty as they've been informed to do, or was there another sinister undertone to their visit? Anyway, meanwhile, at the same meeting, the cleanliness of the whole of the island and Zante Town was the primary issue raised to the mayor by members of the working group for tourism that was recently established in the municipality. At the meeting held by members of the working group held this week in the City Hall, they submitted a written proposal with 31 points concerning issues to be resolved. Now, in the statement made yesterday to Hermes Radio, or the Hermes News Group, the representatives of the hoteliers, Christos Zenos, pointed out with the mayor and the deputy mayor and us businessmen, we have prioritised 9 issues for the list we have presented. We have drawn up a plan for the most immediate to be addressed in order to be launched, and cleanliness is paramount in the city of Zakynthos and in other tourist places throughout the island. Cleanliness is one of the primary. It's a matter of decades, but we have to resolve it as a matter of course. Now, by cleanliness, what they're talking about is rubbish collection, getting rid of the rubbish, basically, so that as you come out of your nice, smart, swanky hotel or place where you're residing, you're not met by lots of bins full of rubbish, which obviously haven't been emptied in many days. And I must admit, there was a problem with that during the season, where a lot of the bins were not being emptied on a regular basis. Couldn't get to the bottom of the reason behind it. Was there issues with the contractors? Was there issues with the municipality? But the bins were not being emptied as quickly as you would like. Because again, first impressions really, really do count. And if people are walking around past bins full of rubbish and it's attracting stray animals and all sorts of other things that go on with it, not to mention rats as well, it doesn't look good for the image of the island in the slightest. So again, we'll see if anything is done in regards to that. Now, continuing to present their views, Mr. Zenos also said, secondly, we are asking for a human city, that's his wording, both in the summer and in the winter. Tourists from many good accommodation, good hotels and villas that the island has come here for holidays, rent a car, go out into the city, and then they turn round and find somewhere to park. So they return to the hotel, hand over the car keys and say, we have a third world city. So they say that they will not go into the city again because they cannot approach it. So again, they're talking about parking again in Zakynthos town in the summer. It's really, really difficult. In fact, in the winter, it can be difficult. Although I've got to be honest, these last few days I've been going into the town and I don't think I've seen it quite so empty in Zakynthos town at the moment. I'm not sure if that's because of the restrictive measures or it's because of basically, people just not going into town. But anyway, the meeting also mentioned what happened in the 1980s, and this is before my time, when traffic was actually banned from the police station up to the Xena buildings, which is up by the port, just behind Solomon Square. You were not allowed to drive up and in and around those areas, and you were able to basically walk about. Imagine what would happen now with the thousands of cars in Zakynthos. So again, if they kept that rule going, what would the town be like now with the thousands of cars? Now, anyway, proposals were also being made. A solution had been found by Mr. Zenos, which says, why not implement a park and ride, where basically you could drive to a major car park, a huge car park, and then buses could then transport people from that car park and take them into the centre of the town. And obviously people could then go and obviously explore. So again, that's the solution that's been mooted. Whether it will happen, there was also talk about whether the seafront, all traffic should be banned along the seafront during the summer months, and only cycle paths be allowed. There was also talk of 200 free cycles being allowed as well, where people could go along, park up somewhere, and then either take the bus into the middle of the town, or they could actually just get one of the free bicycles and then ride those in, and then obviously return them at the end of their visit into the town. And in fact, they were talking about having about 20 kilometres of cycle path into Zakynthos town. They also said, we want to build a city that will be equivalent to other areas with tourism, such as Syros, Kos and Trikala, and those locations as well. Anyway, the Municipal Council, after the events that took place last night at the Cultural Centre, where at the time of the meeting the police entered the room and arrested with a spontaneous procedure a citizen who was there to discuss issues and issue the following resolution. So again, that was probably one of the reasons why the police were called, or the police turned up at the City Council Hall, and that had kind of slipped my notice there. Anyway, in the midst of the controversy and in a climate that once again did not characterise itself seriously in reference to the Municipal Council of Zakynthos, it was decided to postpone the debate on the approval of the 2014 balance sheet. Yeah, as the chartered accountant who had basically come and had taken control of the financial data of the municipality at that time was not present. Now, specifically, Mr. Steros Goulas, a chartered accountant who took over the audit of the 2014 balance sheet, did not make his planned trip to Zakynthos to attend the Municipal Council due to the strike on the boats. Anyway, as a result, the opposition councillors did not want the issue to be discussed without the physical presence of the chartered accountant, and asked for the issue to be postponed till the next meeting. Now, the reason why it's so important that they wanted the chartered accountant there was because, as you're probably aware, there's been a lot of controversy surrounding the budgets of the municipal council. You may remember the case of the mayor, which was involved in the case of the fraudulent bank loan. This was all around about the same era. When Mr. Bazikis then became mayor, it was then decided that they had to re-establish the economics of the local municipality, and so therefore they couldn't find any balance sheets or books to be able to sort out the actual financial situation of the actual municipal council. So again, another chartered accountant took up the case, as it were, but this chartered accountant was based over in Athens, so he was outside, shall we say, the realms of influence of what was going on Zakynthos. However, it's still ongoing since 2014 as to what was going down at that time in regards to municipalities' finances. And it's also was stressed at the meeting that not only that, but the 2013 balance sheet for that year had actually been given to the prosecutor for further investigation. So they're going to basically forensically analyze all the receipts and everything else that was going on financially for that era as well. So it's only logical that you'd want to see what happened with the 2014 balance sheet. Anyway, the Director of Financial Services, Mr. Komiotis, requested that aside from the partition of the certified accountant, either in his physical presence or through videoing conferencing, in order to what will be said by his services. Now, it seemed they did actually try to get hold of the man. They phoned him. They asked him if he would do a Zoom conference. He didn't need to physically be there, but he could still present what he knew about the balance sheet in that form. But again, he couldn't be got hold of, which was interesting. So basically, they then had to decide that they were going to adjourn the meeting and adjourn that particular part of the meeting until the next council meeting, where hopefully the accountant will either turn up in physical form or he may actually basically do it via conferencing, a Zoom meeting, etc., just so that he can answer the questions of all of those people from the municipality as to what was going on in the balance sheet for 2014 here on Zakynthos. Also as well, you might be aware, if you're living here on the island, there's a lot of work that is going on Buckley Hill at the moment as you're going up the hill. The name of that street, believe it or not, is called Flick-on Street. At the moment, there is a lot of work going on there, and at the moment, it's basically become, if you're lucky to get up and down that hill, depending on what's going on, you will be able to move or get through that area. However, what's happening there, for those people wondering, they're shoring up the hillside there and basically putting in a reinforcing wall. Now, this week, it seems that they've been putting in 122 main pylons along that roadway there to build this reinforced wall. Now, behind this wall, there is also going to be sewage piping as well. Now, the issue at the moment that's been going on is that with this work of extending the wall to create a reinforcement, so the hillside where Buckley Hill is located doesn't collapse down onto Flick-on Street, has basically caused problems for the sidewalk or the pavements there, which are going to be kind of slightly narrowed. Also, as well, the local municipality and regional governor have been asking locals who are living in that area if they would give up part of their outside area of where they live so that a larger sidewalk could actually be installed there. But at the moment, there's been no reaction from any of the locals who live on that hill, whether they are prepared to give up a little bit of their sidewalk or pavement to enable for the pavement to be extended slightly, because this piping now is taking up more room than was first anticipated, or just through the design of the actual of the works that are going on. So again, that's the reason why, if you're having difficulty getting in and out of Zakynthos town, especially if you're coming from Sillafi, taking the back road past the hospital and coming in through that direction, that your way is blocked by having to take a detour going down again back onto the sea road and coming into Zakynthos town on the long route into town. It's because they're shoring up that hillside. In fact, if you look where that hillside has been shored up, they also shored up the hillside up by the municipal water tanks that are right on the top of the hill as well. That was done a couple of years ago, again to prevent landslides, especially with heavy rain coming down onto the main road there. So it's work that's needed. It's work that is going to improve getting in and out of town, and also it's work to improve the water supply and sewage as well in that area of Zakynthos town. Let's move on. I think I've got another story for you. Yes, and finally, this story was just coming on air as I was writing the news this morning. Zakynthos MP, Mr. Icus, has been speaking to Hermes News about the increase in cases on the island, but appointments for vaccinations and the implementation of stricter measures for the unvaccinated that provoked reaction of traders and businessmen, but also the inauguration of the Municipal Theatre, which took place a few days ago, at which he did not attend. Anyway, speaking on Hermes Radio, he clarified that he would be present at important events of the organisation on the point of the part of the municipality if they would basically tell him. It's no point not telling him in time. And also, he was a driving force between the actual getting the theatre opened up and basically getting the project underway. And that was many, many years ago, which I wasn't aware at the time. This is before I'd really got into the way of Zakynthos. But he was the mayor of Zakynthos many, many years ago when the project was first mooted in Zakynthos to build a municipal, well, it was supposed to be a municipal hall, and it went from a municipal hall into a municipal theatre. But anyway, that's by the by. Now, he did say that the island, like all the rest of Greece, has been hit by the fourth wave of the pandemic, and the MP noted that the national health system has begun again to feel the pressure that is likely to grow even more, as he characteristically mentioned that this is a battle of the health system and not the concerns at the unvaccinated, since they are the ones who have filled the ICUs. Now, he said in his statement, vaccinations has nothing to do with the economy and the return to normalcy. It has to do with human life. Last year in Zakynthos, such days with such fewer cases, the corona clinic and the ICUs were full. And this year with triple cases, fortunately, we've had much fewer hospitalizations on our island. Satisfaction is caused by the fact that Zakynthos, the attendance of the vaccinations has increased sharply again. So basically what he's saying is that appointments here on the island have actually gone up for people wanting to take the vaccine. At the moment, we stand around about 65% of the island are fully vaccinated. It seems that the hospital here at the moment, despite what's going on in the national media figures, the hospital is not here under any undue pressure at the moment with lots of patients in the COVID clinic. It's interesting, the local press are not printing the amount of people that are in the COVID clinic and how many of the ICU beds here in the clinic are actually being used at the moment. It would be a statistic that I would like to know. And also as well, whether anybody has come in from outside of the island because the local area that they're in has not been able to accommodate them either in a COVID clinic or in an ICU bed because of their condition. That would be something I wouldn't mind hearing being said. He said now, regarding the measures concerning the vaccinated in the shops and the stores and the health and things, the MP referred to the requests of the representatives of the Commercial Association, noting that there is indeed an issue of unfair competition with the supermarkets and corrective actions could be made. And we've said this all along, the supermarkets, because they're bigger, and as I said to somebody yesterday, maybe they're putting a bit more into party funds than maybe your little mini market on the corner is, although he's paying what he can through his taxes. These other big corporations, your Lidls, your A&B, etc., I would think they're probably paying a little bit of money to the social funds of, shall we say, some of their MPs, etc. So they are being lobbied quite nicely for getting things their own way. Anyway, it's important to understand that he said that we all have to take responsibility after checking by the shopkeepers themselves who have entered their store. There is a threat of lockdown. We spent 1.5 years with the economy being closed and shops must remain open. And I 100% agree with him. I agree with him totally. It's about the shops themselves making sure that they follow the rules. One, because they don't want the fine. They don't want a €10,000 fine and being closed down for 15 days and have somebody with a mobile phone checking that people come in with the actual proper paperwork. And if they don't come in with the proper paperwork, just telling them, I'm sorry, but you can't stay. You've got to go. That's what we're saying. We're saying, look, play the game, all right, at the end of the day. Your choice whether you're vaccinated or not. But if you're not vaccinated like myself, and luckily I have got my... I've got my certificate of disease, as it's called, which means I've had the illness, I've got over it, and it's as good as being vaccinated as far as I'm concerned. It's been recognised and it's being accepted, and I want it to stay like that. Let's make this perfectly clear. It should still be a matter of choice whether you have the vaccination or not. But at the moment, if you've got a business, you've got to protect your business. And if it means one of your staff has to check everybody coming in and making sure that they have got the proper paperwork and they can be accounted for, then obviously that's all you can do. But at the end of the day, it still does come down to choice. Right, that's it for the news today. A little bit long-winded, I've got to be honest. I see a lot of people tuning in at the moment. Alan Higgins from Glasgow is looking in. Nice to see you. Maria Heidelberg says, good morning from a quiet, cold Sweden. Have a nice day. Let's see you out. John Clifford there. Flick-on Street is in Buckley, is temporarily renamed Flick-off Street. Thank you very much, John, for your added humour to the morning. Andy Reid is watching. Alan Woodhouse is watching. Debbie Linwood is watching. Michael Wood is watching. Barbara Telfer is watching as well. Any comments from anybody? Because I do miss people's comments, actually, sometimes, just the way my old tablet works. And John Clifford says, Guten Morgen, Herr Ginge. Thank you very much. Shane Bowen says, Gallimera Ginge from a beautiful Exmoor. A good day for beating. He's out shooting. He's again today. A great show last night. Thank you for that. Do you know what? It was really nice yesterday night. I was sat in the chat room, as it were, talking to people during the broadcast yesterday, which went absolutely well. It got stopped and started. Some little technical glitch came in, but the show was stopped and started, but the whole show went through fantastically on beatsradio.co.uk. Just to remind you that the show is repeated today, slightly later, 7 p.m. in the UK. No, sorry, yeah, that's right. 7 p.m. in the UK, which is 9 o'clock. No, sorry, it's 11 o'clock here in Greece, which is 9 o'clock in the UK. I'll get that right in a minute. So it's 9 o'clock in the UK till 11 o'clock. And also, can I just say a quick hello to Ian Thompson as well in Birmingham. I hope you're recovering well, buddy, and all is good. I'm not sure if your show is going out at all on Beats Radio with everything that's been going on. I know how difficult it is. Just making shows is quite intense, actually, and takes up a lot of time. But anyway, if you want to tune into the Dance Anthem show, it's being repeated tonight on Beats Radio at 9 p.m. UK, 11 p.m. Greek time. I'll probably be in the chat room. Come and say hello. If you've got any requests for future shows, please drop them there as well. Anyway, I'll keep my ear close to the ground. Jane and I got a bit of a busy day today. We've got to go check on some cats down in Vasilikos. And again, we're going to have a great day. Anyway, it's still looking a bit gloomy at the moment. I look so white on this screen. It's unbelievable. Where's me tan gone from the summer? Anyway, I'll catch you later. You take care. Have a great day. Ta-ra.